Welcome back, class. Today in the figure drawing, we're going to begin to look at some heads. And so my idea here is to show you somewhat of the front view and some of the more subtler breakup of the planes, and maybe a profile 3/4 view, and if I have time, maybe looking up and down. You do have a handout, and it looks like this. It'll say assignment number 7, September 24th. So if all of you pull this out, and look at this handout. So on the front of this handout, it's going to give some proportions of the head. I am going to go through that, but you want to refer to it. The second page being a very essential page of this, I'm just going to point out a couple pages in this handout briefly. This page being very essential because what it does is it shows us major planes. So in the first one, these are the first big planes, and so a lot of us try to memorize these big planes of the head. Within these big planes are smaller ones. As you can see, there's a forehead between the temporal line. Now we've got another plane in between that, between what we're going to be known as the glabella. So if you watch the breakup of the bigger planes, and within bigger planes are smaller planes, and as you know, that's what details are, smaller shapes within bigger ones. So this first print being the most crucial, this being the second, and again from our profile, which I think I'm going to start with, the simple breakup of how the features work to the skull. The last one I just want to point out before we get into this is this one. It's going to give you, I'm going to run through the proportions up here, and you know, this is rough to do from a side, so sometimes I'm standing in front of you. Just keep referring to this. If I'm working with a front view, a side view, I'll try to do a side view this way. So you've got these things to compare with, okay? So with that, we will get started. I do have my little model here. This is known as Ed the Head. And Ed the Head has those big planes on it we just talked about. So is what I'm going to do with this first one is I think I'm going to put him over here. And we're going to start off. And if you guys want to draw along with me, feel free to do this. So what I'm going to do is come up with a ball. Now, when you come up with a ball, I want to try to make this a pretty decent size. So, anyways, so I'm going to come up with a ball. I'm going to eliminate my inside muddling there. And is what I want to do, which you will do the same, is make sure the width of this ball equals the height. And that looks pretty close. So anyways, our width equals our height. Every now and then I've got to get in front of it or to the other side, just so that I can know that I've got my relationships right. So anyways, a ball. A ball is representing the cranium of this head. The cranium comes down to the bottom of the nose. Here's the bottom of the cranium. You run it across, you're at the bottom of the nose. From the side view, the egg of the head sticks out. This dimension would be 5 eyes across and 5 eyes high. When we put the front of the face on, it's going to come out another inch. But with the cranium, if you want to make it a little more accurate to reality, there's a slight angle to it like this. The front of the face is going to stick out about that much further. I'm estimating it roughly an eye width. So is what I'm going to do is maybe keep that as my measurement. And now is what I'm going to do is connect this as a big egg coming around like this. So in reality, if you want to play with this, it's fun to kind of get the idea of how this might work. But you want to come up with a nice feel to this egg shape that would look very much like I've got it. So wrap this up, comes around. Okay. So now we've got an egg shape, and our egg shape has an axis line to it. I'm going to take from this line, and I'm going to drop a vertical line. Again, I'm going to get in front of it, so I'm kind of moving around to try to get a sense for where this is. So this wants to be a vertical line. This is the bottom of our nose, so I'm just going to strike in a line here, bottom of nose. Base of our skull, I'm going to come around this way and make a turn to it for the jaw, and this is going to do this. Now, I've got to check my proportions and make sure all of this is in the right place. It looks close, but we'll check it. So here's the base of our nose, as we talked about. The relationships of the parts of the head, we talked a little bit about this in the past with the 3/4 view, but if I go from chin to base of nose and go up once, that should get me to the eyebrow. If I go up again, it should get me to the plane break of the hairline. So actually this measurement that I have here looks pretty accurate. So I'm going to strike in my line directions for the profile. Okay, I do want this line in the front to be vertical. So I'm getting in front of it just one more time, striking it in so it's that way. Okay, so just to get rid of a little bit of the confusion because of all these angles going on, I'm going to get rid of this inside line and just turn it into the egg shape. And now we've got our general front as a straight. This is our connecting line between the egg of the front and the ball of the head. Now, is what we're going to do is come across for our eyebrows. If I've got it right, the eyes should be about here. Now I'm going to check this measurement. This measurement, if you have it right, if you're drawing along, these eyes should be half of your head. This would be center of your eye. If I measure up, it looks very close, so I'm going to leave it there. So as you're breaking these measurements down, things should fall in place as you work them in. So just to refer back to this, the base of the nose, the base of the skull, our midpoint is the middle of the eye. If you measure up to that. This plane break on the forehead that you're seeing right here, you can see the distance from there to there. This is my distance from the top of the skull to the hairline, right? So these distances make the difference. So this is a generalization. This is a mass concept. So what I want to do is box this head in. And those of you drawing along, I'm going to have you do the same thing. So box this in just so that we can see it in light of a geometric shape. Gotta get my charcoal, it's running down. So just so that we can see this in light of a geometric shape. Okay. Now, if this is right, is what would happen is this would be 6 eyes across and a little narrower than its height. And this would be 7 eyes up, which is real close now because that would represent an eye width. So now we're real close to our measurements, our height to our width. So again, if you go by cranium lengths, is what happens is it's 6 eyes this way, and it's 7 eyes high, okay? So there's our configuration. Now from that is what we're going to do is begin to watch our eyebrow starts up here. So what I want to do is kind of watch the eyebrow and watch how it's going to make a subtle curve. And I'm going to make a turn about here and go this way. And I'm going to run it in to my line of where the eye is. So this is where the eye would be. This is the brow, and I'm making an angle going like this, okay? So what would happen is our forehead, if I get this in there a little more accurate, it would go this way, and this would be the plane break. I'm going to alter my egg shape. If I pulled it out a little more like this, it would be quite accurate. So that would do that, okay? So now we've got the plane break, and we've got the place of where that's going to be. If I extend the eyebrow across, it's going to give me an idea of where the top of the ear is. And I'm going to just take where the jaw might be. I'm going to just bring my center of the eye across. And of course, we know where the bottom of the ear is. If I was to take this in the middle of the cube and find my midway point and drop a line down there, okay? And on yours, you might want to check it out, measure, is it midway? And this is pretty close, so I'm going to leave it. So we've got our midway point. So our midway point from here is going to put the edge of the ear and the jaw at an angle like this. Your jaw falls midway of the head. So the ear, this is your jaw, the ear is going to be midway from the profile, if I have it right. If I have that line working pretty close. So this ought to do the same thing. So if I went from the back of the skull, it's going to be a hard measurement here, but from the back of the skull to the front minus the nose, those should be equal. So this is going to come down. I'm going to follow the edge of the jaw pretty much, and I'm going to make a little curve to the jaw here, and that's going to follow through. Basically, the bottom of the skull is going to be here. In a sense, this line was a construction line. So that's going to give us the feel of our structure of the mass of the head, okay, from the profile. Now, nose is going to stick out a little bit. So what will happen is, there's this, between your eyes here, there's what's known as the glabella. The bridge of your nose starts a little way down, like from that point. So in a way, this sticks out a little bit, and it cuts in. I'm going to try to get this a little darker so you can see it. Might be hard to see, but I'm going to do my best here. So what this is going to do is the eminence sticks out. This comes in. The glabella would be there. The nasal bone would come out. Takes a little bend to it. This is going to come like this, and then you're going to get to your nose is going to have a little bend in it. I'm just going to keep a little bit of a plane there, and it's going to move around like that. So everybody's got a nasal bone, and that nasal bone, look for it. It's going to take one angle, it's going to switch and take another angle, and then you're going to get the turn of your nose. That's a plane break. A lot of people's noses, a slight angle underneath takes a little bit of an angle there, okay? Now, with the eye, is what we do with the eye. The eye is going to sit on where we've got the line of the eye, and we're going to put a shape in there like this. So we're going to put a curved shape like this on that eye. So if I put a curved shape on this plane, you're going to get to where that eye is. Now, when I put it on, I've got a diagonal and an angle ellipse for the placement of the eye, crossing over a horizontal line. This would be the corner of my eye here, and this would be the edge of the eyelid eventually back here. So you do it as from this angle as an elliptical shape. With that elliptical shape, there's a couple other things I want to do here. Where there's a plane break here on your brow, and it's known as the temporal line. This temporal line is going to come across here. It's going to follow literally through our eyebrow and through our eye, and it's going to make a curve like this all the way down. So I'm going to try to get the curve in just a little neater. Okay, we're back again. Be patient with the delays. Anyways, what we're doing now is I was placing in this temporal line. Temporal line's coming around like this. Temporal, because of time, you start to see how this line begins to flow and connect into this one. Eventually, there's a plane here a little bit here on top, coming through like this. Anyways, our ear is going to be over here. So what we're going to do is place in a slight angle, and I'm going to put it in. So there'll be a little bit of an angle here, comes up, out, over, roughly to that. Might be a touch big, I'm going to leave it. Now, what we would do is go from the corner of the eye. The corner of the eye would be here, right there. And I'm going to use a line coming down from there to separate the nose from the cheek. And it would come all the way down to this edge like this. And it would come right to my line. Now, what I'm going to do, because I've got a real thick line in here, and I need you to see the line that I'm about to place. So I'm going to lighten that up. So this line is going to make the separation here to my construction line, going to represent roughly to the upper lip. It's not extending beyond the box, however. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it in and then out to the chin. The chin I'm going to keep on my construction line. even though on some people things vary a little bit. So this is just a simplicity here. So anyways, we're going to do that. Now, what will happen is there will be a base to the nose, and it's going to be in here, say about like that. And then this part under your nose will stick out a little bit more beyond the line I just drew. And then I'm going to pull it in to the upper lip. And then the lower lip will sit underneath it like this. Whoops, let me try to get it just a little better. So here we go. I'm going to strike this line in a little bit. The turn of the upper lip will come in like that. And then we're going to get the edge of the lower lip coming out and then in and then around. And then you get the little bit of the opening of the mouth and the angle coming in this direction. Okay, so you get that sort of sense. If I had this right, the chin would probably come out just a little more, so I'm fussing around with the thing. Okay, so we've got that going. Anyways, we would have a feel of a line. The edge of the eye would be there. There'd be a little distance from here to there. And then a lot of times the cheekbone is right here. And this would angle up this way. The interesting thing about the zygomatic bone, it's going to follow this rhythm. And it would be in place pretty much right where I have it. And then, of course, that's following that line. There would be a top to the ear. Well, the edge of the ear, there's usually a construction line that pulls this way for the face to about the edge of the chin. And there's one from right here where the eyebrow makes its turn. And a lot of times we'll go to the mouth like this. And you get these kind of planes that are on there. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm not going to put, there would be a lower eyelid here. It'd be hard to get in because it's so dark. And of course I could bring the upper eyelid. But I'm just going to leave it simple the way that I've got it, and we'll do that. Now, is what would happen roughly about here, if I kind of estimate it, I would come up with an angle for the neck. Now, if I take a cranium length, and we measure that cranium length down once, we're going to get to the pit of the neck right here. Pit of the neck is going to be important. The angle of the back of the neck is going to come up. And then we're going to get the feel of where the back of our neck would be. And our seventh vertebrae spine would come out roughly to the back of the head here, right where I've got it. So this angle would be in here. This would follow its way through. This would do this. Underneath, we would get the feel of what's known as the hyoid bone, and I want to get my construction line just a little better in shape. So underneath, it would come this way, and there'd be a plane under here, a little bit under your neck, right? And then on that, you're going to get a feel of the Adam's apple. Into our construction, you will find what's known as the mastoid muscle, and it's going to connect to a little bump here on the skull, and that line is going to take quite the picture. So it's going to come down, it's going to hit the clavicle, it dips into the middle like this, around the clavicle, and does this. The thickness of it will pull, because the mastoid bone is right here, but it starts on the skull there. And on this side, it will come around like this, and then wrap around the clavicle bone and tuck in the center in between, okay, which would be in here. The other muscle that you're going to see is the trapezius muscle. That's what we have it going in there, and it's going to connect to the base of the skull. I'll show it to you from other angles. That's going to be in there. It starts down like this, and then it starts to pull out and widen this way. So that's going to be in here as well. So that's going to give us our general characteristic of the side of the head and the neck. I'm not going to worry about any hair on this character. Now, with the next one is what I want to place. I think I'll do him somewhere over here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to think about a front view. So I'm going to start off again with a circle, and I'm going to keep it kind of large once I get my charcoal in place. So we're going to start off with a circle. So make sure the width and the height, if you're drawing along as I'm going, make sure the width and the height work. So what we want to do is check our height to our width, and it looks pretty close, so I shall keep what I have. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our center line, and we're going to drop it down. Now, we already know a little bit about the skull as the ball, or the egg shape I did on this one. And we know that the bottom of this thing needs to be thirds. They call it the classical thirds. And is what we're going to do is guess at it. And now we know the bottom of the ball is the bottom of the nose. So we're going to take once, go in there twice. If I've got it right, it would be at the hairline. It's pretty close. So I think I'm going to keep it pretty close to where I've got it. Might lower it ever so little. Okay. So we've got these dimensions. Again, we'll go over them and over them for the beginning people. So from the bottom of the chin to the base of the nose to the brow, eyebrows, right? And then from the eyebrows to our hairline, okay? So that becomes our classical thirds, it's called. You can break up the head in thirds. The little extra space in the front represented here is this distance represented here, okay? So that's the same. And now we've got that. And so now I'm going to make another line that's going to represent where this edge of my jaw is. This jaw probably could have a little more of an angle to it now that I look at it, but I shall leave them. So is what we're going to do is take a line about this far below the ball. So when you look at where you got your ball just a little lower than it, make a construction line. I might make it a little lower. I think it'll look a little better. So what I'm going to do is bring it down to about here. Okay. So I'm going to watch my eyes roughly where they're going to be. And this is close. I'm going to check, and then I'm going to do I want to know where this is going to be before I start the rest. So this is very close. I'm going to make it a touch lower. It's where the eyes are going to be. So I'm using that line as a guideline, and you can too, to get the feel of this structure. So this is going to start to angle in for a person's jaw. So it's going to angle in about like this. I'm off to the side of it, so I'm guessing at stuff. So this is doing this. And then it's going to angle in. Okay. Now, I've showed you in the past just putting an egg. So in the past, I had you guys, same thing. I'll just show you really, really quick. So you started off with a simple ball. And is what we did is took a vertical line, and we found its center, and then we put an egg shape, and we put it in here like this. Okay? And we had the ball, and right about here is this angle coming in. So that's it in curves, okay? So it can be done either way. I'm just doing it real structural. You can do it with straight lines. You can do it with curves. You can do it however you so desire. But I thought I'd show you a slightly different way to attack it, just so that we can see where these low points are. Okay, I'm being a little more fussy with it. So anyways, is what we're going to do with this now. I'm going to bring my eyes across here, my eye line. I'm going to say the side of the head is from a front view, but there is perspective to it, would be about here. From where the plane would change, that would be about there. I'm going to bring up where the glabella is just slightly, and I'm going to make a curve coming down like this. Okay, so you're going to do the same on yours. I'm going to get rid of the thicker line so you can see it develop a little bit. So anyways, this is the curve of the orbital area. This is coming to the center of our eyes, okay? Representing all of that. Up here, if I put a plane, it would look like this. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to put a plane up here, just very loosely, using a curve. Ellipses are great to use for any figures, heads. This now on the side is going to come up like this, and there'd be a plane in here. And it would be right there. And let me fix my charcoal periodically. So on the side, we're taking right where the opening of the orbital areas are, right here, and we're going to run up a line. This line is going to curve to the temporal, like this. So we've got a curve doing this. So place that in. Where this hits is fine. Your head actually makes a slight change right there. Widest point of your head is right there. So we're going to do the same on this side. So we're going to bring this up, curve it to how it would curve in to the side of the head and over to here. Okay. I am going to connect these pieces like this. So it's going to give us a little bit of the structure from the side of the head to the front. Okay. I will edit that so that we can see how our orbital area stops at this point and comes through. Okay. All right. Now, is what we're going to do is take this line on the side and we're going to carry it down to the plane break on the chin. So you're taking this to come up with the side of the cheek, and it's going to put all of our perspective in place. The narrowness of this, a little wider here, gradually tapering. We're going to do the same on this side. We're going to bring that in as well. So now we've got a feel of no longer a two-dimensional shape. Where the plane makes a change from the top of the plane of the head, follow me with this. This is going to make another plane. This is going to be where your orbital area makes the change to the temporal line. And this is going to do the same, and these all line up, and that's the beauty of it. This will come in, I've got to get my placements out a little more, so I'm going to go to about here. So this will come out about to there, and it would turn about to here. So these are your big plane breaks. I now have, for the forehead, as you can see, I'm getting it to where it begins to rotate like this. And so there's a sense of depth to it. The top of it, of course, we do this. If you write down it, this line would be straight. So now we took a flat shape, we turned it into a three-dimensional shape. Now, we're taking the top of our eyebrows and running a line through, a construction line of where the ears are going to be. So run that line across. The bottom of our nose is here, so run that line across. If you have it right, it should be above the break of the jaw. I got a little angle, so I've got to straighten it up. So this angle would be more like this. So there should be a distance between here and there, and I'm going to do the same on this side. So, is what's going to happen with an ear. This is going to be our cheekbone, and I'm going to watch right about here is where I'm going to cross the line. So if you follow me, this line is touching our side of the temporal line. I'm keeping the cheek a little wider. So I'm going to follow my ear line about here, and I'm going to run this line curve like this. This is a rhythmic line, and it's going to come all the way through, and the top of the ear is going to be here. Okay, it's going to come out how ears do. It's going to come out a little wider and then taper in like this. And then this will curve and meet it. And then this will be our top plane. Okay, so the ear is going to sit in there. Ears will taper in. And of course, out here, I might make it just a little wider. So I'll do that with it. So this is the top of the ear. This is the plane. And it's coming around the rhythm line rolls through it like this. The other side's going to do the same thing. It's going to start about here. It's going to cross over and curve around. So it's going to do this. This comes out from the side of the head right at the plane break. This plane comes out about to the center of the eye, they say, with the ear. And then the ear comes in, the lobe comes down to the lowest point and meets it about like that. And then this just straightens up for the plane of the top of the ear. Okay. So there we go. This one, I'm going to make a touch wider. And I think you guys should see how they work. Okay. So, with that in mind, is what we're going to do. We're going to take a line here from right about here, and we're going to move it in, and I'm going to do the silhouette of how the nose would sit in here. So this is an outside line of the plane break. And so I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to lighten this line up down here so you can see my line when it hits. So anyways, you're following it about the way I've got it. Coming in, curving it out, bringing it this way. The same with this, about where I've got it. Okay, so you get a shape like that. This one to make it a little neater for you. Now, as what happens is, like we did this, and you can see it here, this point of the glabella doesn't come up to the top of the eyebrow. Like this doesn't either. It starts lower than the brow line. So what I've got to do is find out where that is, and it's usually at the upper part of the lid. Very close to where I've got this. The upper lid would be where I put the ellipse, and that would be a close estimate. So what I'm doing is getting the top of the nasal bone, which you would find, and there'd be a little curve to it. And I'm going to bring this piece around on the inside and do this with it. I'm going to put an inside, I'm echoing the piece. It's an easy way to come up with a nose. And then a curve for the wing, and a curve for the wing, okay? So it's going to give us a sense of the base of the nose. Okay, so that's in place. Right here, you're going to get the feel of the glabella, and it would widen like this. And it would come across like this. And it sits this way. And it comes up a little bit, and here in between, it comes together. There's a slight concave feel to it. People, you're going to see this. There's an eminence there. It sticks out. The eye is going to be in here. So I'm just going to map it out. An eye is going to be an eye apart. There would be an edge to it here the way I've got it. The wing of the nose would come up like this. You're going to get the feel of the eye in here. I'm just going to put a ball in there. I'm going to keep it as general as I can. Mostly I'm just trying to map out for you guys some of the bigger masses and the bigger planes. So this is going to come up the way it does. You're going to get the brow coming across this way. It makes its angle, comes down and over. Eventually the eyelid will cross over that, okay? And so it's going to be in that placement. You're going to get a feel here of a cylinder. Now this could get to have a lot of lines on it, so I'm going to keep it real simple at this point. But there'd be a curve in here. Underneath here would be the ball, of course, would cut into it. It would be the ball of the chin. And is what would happen in through this area with your mouth, the edge of the lip, of the lower lip, is actually midway. So I might have that a little high. I'm going to check it. So if I go from chin to the bottom of the lip, way too high. So what I'm going to do is lower this and say I'm going to try this as my measurement. Try this as the parting of the lips. Okay. So if I take from the bottom of the chin, lower lip should go there. Now it's in a better placement. And I'm going to place center of the mouth. Place this. This curve would cut down a little bit further than I've got it. The ball of the chin cuts into it like this. They would overlap. With the mouth, there's a lot of ways we can do it. You can take a mouth. I'm gonna try to put it in there, but it'll be small. Sometimes the way you can do it, the middle of the lip, you can do a curve. Make it full. The edge of the lip, we overlap it a lot of times with a little ellipse and a little ellipse like this. And the lower lip, a lot of times we cross them over and bring back a curve this way and overlap it and bring back a curve this way. And then we put in the curve this way and we run it through. And that'll kind of give us then the feel of the upper lip to the lower lip. Okay. Lower lip doesn't come as far as the upper lip. All right. So that kind of gives you the sense of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a curve up here. And I'm going to put a smaller one here. And on an angle, I'm going to put a smaller one here. And then on the lower lip, well, let's cut into it. So I'm going to take the philtrum and I'm going to cut down into that curve that I just made. So it would look like that. And then the inside of it will have a little triangle as well. This will come around. They're small, but you kind of get the idea. And they would go in there, and then the lower lip, I'm just going to curve it a little shorter than the upper. Okay. So the same thing that would happen with the side view would be the front view as far as the neck. So take the cranium length, measure it down, and you're going to get to here. So this is the pit of our neck on the front view. So I'm going to just run a line across for the shoulders. Usually on our little poses from the front is what we do. If you find the line we're finding when Riley is doing his constructions that I've showed you. I've showed all of you this in the past. This is where he's getting the line from here. So he's taking the line here and he's coming down and he's getting the neck off of that line. So the neck is going to follow off of that line. He brings it down and he puts in the curve. And that's how he's coming up with the line. And then ultimately we're bringing it all the way down, of course, to get the pelvis. So I can take that line and I can get a sense for that coming through. It breaks the jaw roughly where I've got it. That would come through to about there. This one would do in a similar way. It would come through to about here. That line, I'm going to stop it in there. And then we're going to get the back of the neck, the 7th vertebrae spine, which is going to be back here. And then we're going to come with our triangle. That's going to be here. And so we would place that through and around. And our center line, pit of the neck. Off of this line of the mastoid muscle would pull in, this muscle that I've stroked here. From the front view, it's going to pull in like this. And it's going to wrap itself and pull in to the bone like that. And this would do the same. It would come in and then pull over. This line will pull out of it. And the mastoid muscle also has another branch to it. It comes out this way, and this would pull out this way to the bone, giving us the feel of the front of the neck, of course. We know that our clavicle bones, we've talked a little bit about this, would start high, and then it would turn down low. So it goes up, turn around. The same with this. And this would end up here. Okay. So that's basically our front view. Now, what I'm going to do is show you something a little bit with a 3/4 view, or, well, actually, before the 3/4 view. Can you see it here? Okay. Is what I'm going to do is show you something with a little bit of the back of the skull, and then I'm going to, if we have time, I'm going to show you a 3/4 view. So it's what we're going to do with the back of the head. If you take, we're going to make another ball. So what we want to do, so make your ball, check your ball, make sure the width and the height are the same. They're easy to get off, of course. And so check them. So make sure this distance is equal to this distance, and this is close, but I'm going to pull this out just a tad more on the left. Okay. With this, do the same as the front. Drop a vertical line. After you've got your vertical line with the back of the skull, the way it's going to differ is straighten the bottom of the base of the skull to a horizontal line like this. A little bit different characteristic from the front. So you do this, and then we take, if we can estimate roughly where our eyes are, we're going to take roughly from here, the skull, and we're going to angle it like this. And so this is going to come this way. Actually, the eyes are here, the eyebrows will be about here. Your temporal line should be roughly where I've got it. That's the widest point of the skull. This is in through here. So from the back, that makes a difference. So that's going to do that from a back view. You get the mastoid process. Some of you are familiar with this. The mastoid process is where the mastoid muscle connects to, that I've been putting in these drawings. So the mastoid process is right here behind the ear. That's where this muscle is coming from, and of course this one here. So now we've got to determine our thirds. So I'm going to guess at it again, and I'm going to say if this goes to the base of the skull, goes to the brow, goes to the hairline, it's close. So I'm just going to leave it about there. So there's the bottom of our jaw. Very much like what we did on this one, we're going to do the same. We're going to angle this way, and then we're going to bring it in. We're going to try to find the same angle, and then carry it over. So we almost got the back of his skull in place, which the back of a person's head, even with hair, will look like. Now, there's a down plane on your skull. I'm going to point it out to you on my little head structure here. Put this curve in, follows a curved line like this. This down plane is here. You can see it. It's an undercut. This undercut becomes important on your skull in terms of how the trapezius muscle hits it. So we've got that in place. So the 7th vertebrae spine is going to be roughly here. So what I'm going to do is draw a line across. And we're going to come up with the trapezius muscle, which is going to hook right here on the base of your skull. It's going to be a curve to it. That muscle is going to come down to about, kind of starts a little bit straight like I've got it, and then it begins to taper out and around like this. So this is going to begin to move this way and this way. Our clavicle, spine of the clavicle would be in here. It would pick up that angle. This would pick up that angle to the center of the back. So you would start to get that sense of the back of the neck. You're doing the back of somebody's head. You want to pay attention to this muscle. In this muscle, it's going to have a strong curve to it like this. We just got done doing cross contour lines, so all of you are kind of aware. These are two large chords that meet the back of your neck. You want to sense them. They say it makes a person feel human from the back because of the way these muscles move in. Okay. Also, you're going to see on the side here, you're going to get the mastoid muscle in here coming this way. And you're going to get it off the back of the ear pulling in this way. And you're going to get the same on this side. That muscle will take a little bit of a curve like this and come through. Your ear would be roughly here, and what would happen here, it's going to be like a little disc like this from the back view. We'll make a little curve at the bottom like that. Get rid of this angle of the jaw coming through because it'll throw off our illusion. Edge of the cheek is in here. Okay, so you got the curve, a little bit of the curve of the earlobe, back of the ear, and it's a little trumpet-like feel back there. You won't see much of it, of course. And basically, that's our back view. Okay. Okay, I'm going to straighten out my charcoal one more time. And I'm going to try to show you guys in that place. I'm going to get rid of this drawing temporarily. And hopefully all of you've got that feel of how the back of the head is. And I want to put a little bit of a 3/4 view here. With our 3/4 view, I want to think a little of an egg shape. And we're going to do a little bit of the side of the head, or we're going to turn it and overlap this ellipse. I'm going to find my chin. Find my chin right about here, and the side of the head here. So I started off a little different way, but basically it's a ball and an egg. This is my center line, and ultimately the jaw would be somewhere about here. Back of the skull. So anyways, it'd be set up like that. Slight tilt up, not too much. Okay, with that in mind, so what I want to show you is this eyebrow line. If we start it like this, and I'm going to find the center of the eyes. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a point. I'm going to turn this just a little more. We're going to put a point here. So what happens with our glabella and the brow line, and that's what I want to kind of point out on this one, is if I make this a little high, about there, and is what happens to the curve is there's a curve in here that's going to kind of curve down like this, because we're looking up a little bit, and this is going to curve down like this. When it gets to our simple plane break, this is going to make an angle coming down this way. This one, I want to try to get the curve a little better. It's going to come around to the edge of the head, and the angle is going to curve around this way. So this angle and this angle are the same. Our eyes, the center of it would be here. Okay. Our turn for the cheekbone is going to pull out here like this. Okay. Here on this side, you're going to get it a little around the orbital area, and it'll pull out here. Our temporal line is going to fall around on a slight angle like this. This temporal line becomes important, picks up the high muscle on the cheek, on the side, so it would do very much the way that I have it. The plane break is here, as you can see. If I don't, okay. So the center of our forehead, you're always making marks where plane breaks are. So here's our plane break. This would come around this way. And then we've got the top of the head, okay? So watch from this angle, it's going to turn. So you get the feel of the curve of the whole thing. This is going to follow across where it makes its turn, will be there. Now, the nose, this is what I want you to see from this angle. The bridge of the nose would be here. So watch this distance. Hopefully you can see it well in the video. Watch the distance between here and here, or there and there, and now I'm showing it to you from here to here. There's a space in there. This angle of the glabella, which it's known as, would flare out like this. Now it would cross over the way the structure goes. It would cross over that construction line I placed in for the brow. This one, watch its perspective. It would cross over here. I'm going to try to put it in kind of dark so you can see it. Technically, it would angle down. So there's a piece there. There's a bone in there that curves in between your eyes. It's very important to watch for on the model. This would roughly be the base of our nose here, right about the cheekbones, right? So I'm just going to loosely construct a bridge for the nose. So I'm going to bring this way. I'm going to bring it around for an end to the nose. And with your nose at the beginning, treat it as a simple block shape. You can put curves in there afterwards. So now I just got a simple block for the top of it. Yours should be the same. Easy to turn something into a curve. We could put a curve at the base of the nose, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to do a little bit with an underplane from this angle, not too much. So I'm going to do it like this. And this would become the side of the nose. Okay, so the eye ultimately would go in here, right there. So all I'm going to do is hatch in the feel of the structure, of the bone structure, just so that you get an idea of the strong curve that it makes in through here, and the side of the nose, and the underplane of the nose. Okay. So then what we're going to get is the feel of the curve moving through here. Roll around like that. Eventually, the ball of the chin would pull out of there like this at a slight perspective angle. Our center here would now take a little bit of a curve out. Remember, where your mouth is like a cylinder. It's a curve, really. This is just straight on, so you're not really witnessing the curve. And then since I've got this down a little bit, or looking up a little bit, the plane would make a change. There'd be a slight change to the plane. The tip of the lip would stick out at an angle, so I'm going to put a strong angle to it. So again, this angle I've got pretty much there. I'm going to put the tip of the lip. I'm going to keep it simple. One way to do it is to put a plane on top of that, so it's offset from this, and then draw an angle line down, and then do the same here, and eventually you could get the dividing of it. But this would come roughly to the corner of the eye, and then the edge of the lower lip would be in here. Okay, that edge of the lower lip, there'd be an angle to it from here, so there'd be more space there, less space here, because of the feel of its perspective. So that's pretty much it from a 3/4 view. The ear is going to sit into this shape on the side. So I'm just going to do it as a little disc coming in. But the ear would sit in on the side as a angle. And there'd be a front plane to it. And there would be a top to it, and it would angle back, and it would do some interesting things, but I'm going to leave it very much like this. There'd be a curve to the center of our chin. There's my center line, center of the chin, how the pieces would come together, okay? You could do the same on something like this and say, where is the bottom of the, always mark it, where is the pit of the neck, and then watch our angles to maybe how the neck is going to fall into this. And the curve of the neck. Watch, this would be a front plane. And then you're going to get your angles coming in this way and coming around this way. And you get what we talked about the other week. You get the top of the shoulder girdle doing this, okay? Probably wouldn't come out too far on that side, okay? Basically, it's our 3/4 view. Just a couple of other things I want to show you before we wrap it up. I'm going to get rid of this. If we were to look at something above our eye level, I'm going to put it here. So say if we were to see it a little bit in a box. So say if I have this angle this way, this is going to be the side of the head. Say if I put the front of the head here, I am going to tilt this back a little bit, so this line's supposed to be crooked. This is going to go this way, this is going to go this way, and I'm going to tilt this way. So I'm going to put a little bit of a tilt to these things, not much, but a little. And this is going to go this way, and then we got our bottom taking place. So if you construct it in a box, which is a good way a lot of times to kind of see how things will fall. I did give you some handouts in there of how to think about it in this sense. Because what I'm trying to do is get this plane a little bigger than the front plane. I'm just going to guess at a center. You can put an X on here to find the center, which is the better way to come up with your perspective center, how this is going to fall underneath, of course. And the same here. But I'm just going to guess here at my center and coming across, because the jaw is going to turn and go underneath. I could imagine through the box transparently like this if these two planes came together. Now, what I'm going to do is put a curve of an egg in here. So I'm going to bring it up to about here and curve it around to my center line, to where the chin will go. I'm going to keep this about there. I'm going to let it hit here about my midway, or say roughly where I'm going to place the brow line, which will be about there. I want to figure out roughly where the turn of the skull will be, which will be there, and it'll turn in. So looking up at it, it would be kind of like this, okay? So you're using that as your construction, of course. The nice thing about a block, this angle to this angle, and you do this, then we can get an idea roughly where our jaw is going to be. So we know that it's going to be in this area right there. In the base of the nose, say if I struck it in, it's going to be somewhere about there. This will curve up around the block, and then I'll get the bottom of the ear and where it's going to fall. So then we know that the ear is going to fall in this area, okay, on that head. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is going to fall over the curve. We're going to make a little bit of a curve. I'm going to bring it up and around. A little bit like the one I got rid of, but you all remember. I'm making a little curve to it, bringing it around. I'm going to lighten up my lines just a little bit so you can see it a little better. This goes pretty fast, so. So we're going to get this curve to this high point. It's going to wrap around, and now we're going to bring it in this way because we're looking up. This turns around this way, and then we get it moving down this way. This curve will connect to this. This will connect to this. Nose is going to go in here. Cheekbone will go out, and this will come around. The nose is going to come out pretty severely. The bottom plane of our nose has got to be parallel to our other lines.